In my videos covering the disaster known as Pokemon Go Fest, there are thousands of comments, and naturally, they're not all going to agree with each other. Some people are saying that Niantic is completely at fault for what happened, and others are saying that I'm just being hateful and negative for saying that Niantic is at fault, that there's nothing they could have done to stop what ended up happening at Pokemon Go Fest. That's why I wanted to make this video, because I feel that Niantic is completely to blame, and after asking a lot of my friends in tech to get a better understanding of the situation, and also posting on the Sylph Road, I think that can pretty much be confirmed. That Niantic, they either were too ambitious and did not plan anything, or they also just did not want to put up the money. They went completely bare bones, exactly like they did at the launch of Pokemon Go, and then tens of thousands of players had to suffer the consequences of Niantic's cheapness. So I went on the Sylph Road because these people understand Pokemon Go. This is probably the most well-informed part of the community, and if there's people that understand the technicals, they can also help as well. If there's any disagreement, it can be sorted out through the discussions of Reddit. And my post pretty much covers what I've seen. In my comment section, I saw anything from can't prepare for that much traffic to I've worked the cellular industry for years, and those cheapskates did not do enough to plan the event properly. I'm also interested in seeing if it was even possible to get 20,000 people in a half squared mile to play Pokemon Go, and even then, if that was not a possibility, Niantic should have known this and then say, hey, let's dial it back to 10,000 people, and the issues wouldn't have been as bad. Then they could have also hosted multiple events. Like, why just Chicago? Could have gone, actually, Miami's a little hot to be doing something outside in July, but a beach party for Pokemon Go? That would have been awesome. If they can hold Ultra, they can hold a couple of thousand people playing Pokemon Go on the beach, even though sand and phones. There's something that could have been done probably. Also, you have New York, you have California, you have Seattle, you have Denver. Seems like there's a lot of areas, and unfortunately it's being held in the summer for an outdoor active event, so there could have been multiple ones planned throughout the year. Like, hey, we're going to do Chicago in July, we're going to do something else in August, September, October, and then people could have felt better about it as there's legendary Pokemon releases and something like that. So it seems like it would have been irresponsible for them to throw too many people in too small of an area, which is Niantic's fault to begin with. So I went into it, and people just said they're portable cellular towers that routinely get used at large crowd events like concerts. If there weren't any at the event, they are seriously, absolutely atrocious at planning. Feels like no one knows what they're doing. They know how to make a game, but nothing else. And that's pretty much kind of it. Niantic should have provided sufficient Wi-Fi to alleviate the load on the phone system. And that shows what happened. That took 5 hours for a Niantic representative to go on stage and say, by the way, use Wi-Fi. So the creators of the game and the creators of this event did not know the most optimal way of preventing load and then also getting players to play the game at this event. This is already best practice in conventions and events. It should be played on Wi-Fi first and then the phone system as a backup. But they were overloading the phone system and they did not purchase enough Wi-Fi bandwidth for the area as backup. So that went pretty bad. AT&T and Sprint should have set up additional cell antenna towers because they knew the entire reason they were at the park was for a mobile phone game. So maybe those antennas cost too much money that Niantic wanted to put out. These problems don't happen at playoff games, Super Bowl, or Olympics because they respect the crowd size. The problems at GoFest happen whenever the organizer goes out of their depth, doesn't have the budget, or the awareness to ask for help. And I feel like that happened. Niantic might have thought, we don't need any help. AT&T and Sprint might have been like, hey, you need to pay us more money so we can guarantee there's going to be enough data for these 20,000 people in such a small area. And then they could have just said, hey, we're going to go for it. We're going to take the bare minimum because maybe we can get away with it. And then that ended up not working. Also, Niantic should have known. They host Ingress, and Ingress has had in-game events with thousands of players, so naturally you can just scale something like that up. Seems like they didn't care about Pokemon Go, and this was an issue with the launch of Pokemon Go as well. What ended up killing off Pokemon Go in the first place was the removal of the original tracking system, and then a failure to provide a sufficient replacement. That the tracking system did cause a lot of server stress, but Niantic admitted in an interview they could have prepared for all of that server load, and they could have also done more to stop all the spoofing at the time, but they didn't. And that's kind of what killed off Pokemon Go within the first couple of weeks, is that we lost the best method of obtaining Pokemon inside of the game, which caused people to spoof, which also meant that there's going to be more server load because they didn't put up the initial server load to begin with, and that's what happened at Pokemon Go Fest. They underestimated the amount of traffic they would receive, and the event turned out miserably. Niantic killed one of the greatest things to ever happen to Pokemon. It seems like that just because they had development experience with Ingress, that they were not the right people for the job of creating and hosting Pokemon Go, and it deeply saddens me, but it also keeps getting even worse from there, that the streaming experience was bad, that a majority of the stream was this. Silence, background music, and a static image of the Pokemon Go Fest logo, and anytime something was going on stream, it was usually a Niantic representative kind of broadcasting how bad things are going over there, or also just the host not really playing to the crowd, that the host was pissing off people in the crowd. You have all these unhappy people you don't want to be pandered to, so she was just being fake and bouncy, kind of like the rest of Niantic in this situation, and no one was having any of that. Also, the stream was relatively boring. The camera people seemed like they didn't really have the right setup. The technicals were really bad. They were like, let's go look at the screen. And then the screen wouldn't change for a bit. So it seems like the organization of even the stream was delayed by 2 hours. So all of that went wrong as well. And it even got worse, that there was a 2 to 3 hour wait in line. And if you think about it, people aren't going to go to Pokemon Go Fest for the entire day. Some people, they might have work. They might chill just for a bit and then show up later and then get a little taste of the festivities instead of dedicating an entire day to being outside in the summer in potentially foul weather, because the weather started getting really bad. A storm was coming in, started raining. There were people tweeting that the team hangout areas were becoming mud pits. And even then, like when you look at the event, it was pretty bare bones to begin with. Kind of spread out, only a couple of pagodas for the team areas, and then not really much else. And I think one thing that might put the nail in the coffin for Niantic is this. The merchandise store was very overpriced. That's kind of what gets me about this one as well. That you have a single color print t-shirt being sold for $30. That shirt maybe costs $2, $3 to make, especially in bulk. If that's in bulk, that's like a $2 shirt to make. So they were looking for profit. They were charging over retail for the Pokemon Go Plus. They were doubling the price of like the 3D Snapback Pikachu hat and pop sockets and everything. So they were overcharging for everything at the event. It showed that seemed like Pokemon Go, the Niantic, they wanted to profit from this event even though it was for the fans. If it was for the fans, then why are they trying to turn around and make money off of it? That's what I don't understand. That's what really gets me about this one. Because yeah, it was $20 to get in, so it was like 400,000 in ticket sales because they were sold out of 20,000 tickets. And then the irony is that they had to refund $400,000 in tickets. And they also gave credit to players that were there. So if you pay to go to Pokemon Go Fest, you are likely to be buying Pokecoins. Now, just because it's in-game credit doesn't mean that Niantic is losing that money. It doesn't cost them any money to give credit away, but it is potentially lost sales. Not to the amount of $100 per account, but maybe $10 here and there, because $100 in Pokecoins means that those people don't have to pay for a long time. So Niantic ended up losing a lot of money in this event. They wanted to host it at the bare minimum, but they also it seemed like they wanted to make a lot of profit as well. People were saying that the concessions were very overpriced for a summer day, as well as also the merchandise. Reports from Pokemon Go Fest made it feel like Niantic didn't care about the players that were there. It didn't seem like a way of giving back to the community or the way of making the best real-life Pokemon Go event experience. And that's kind of one thing. If you're trying to spot like some kind of fraudulent event, that's almost what this feels like. Even though it was hosted by an official source with Niantic, it felt like a fraudulent event, that everything was done to the bare minimum, and the experience turned out to be very, very terrible for a lot of the people there, and it feels like they were trying to make the most out of it, and in the end they ended up paying for it. So a little fair bit of irony and karma right there, as some people might want to put it. But overall, I think that's kind of what we have to say about it. Niantic is completely at fault. I don't understand why people are saying I'm being negative or hateful, because by doing these videos, by kind of showing what happened, this prevents these things from happening in the future. This awareness is going to protect people. Putting rightful criticisms onto Niantic is the best way of trying to preserve whatever is left in the Pokemon Go and Pokemon communities, because right now it has been such a disaster. We look like a joke, and I'm pretty sure that Pokemon Go is going to die off pretty hard as well. So there we go, guys. It was bad, and I just had to address that. Like, I don't understand how people can blindly defend Niantic at this point when it seems like they were responsible for everything by not wanting to put in the work required or not wanting to ask for help when it happened. The boos were deserved. The bottle throwing was not deserved. Don't ever throw things at people, especially on stage, especially when they're hosting events, no matter how angry you are. But yes, even though I'm going to get negativity for saying this, this happened. Niantic were not the right people for Pokemon Go. This proves that they killed one of the best Pokemon games ever, and that really sucks. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching. Also, this is ignoring that they're 6 months behind on development. They still don't have trading and PvP. See ya.